Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, presented by the Business Courier. A lawsuit against locally based Fifth Third Bank goes before the Supreme Court next week. New life for an old and historic pump station in Eden Park. And opening day is tomorrow. Who will win? And equally important, what's new to eat at the ballpark? U.S. Bank Business Watch is next. And welcome to U.S. Bank Business Watch. I'm Peg Rusconi. On Tuesday, the U.S. Supreme Court is expected to hear arguments in what is being called a huge lawsuit filed against Cincinnati-based Fifth Third Bank. On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, the sleeper case. The lawsuit was brought by thousands of Fifth Third employees whose retirement plans were tied to the value of company stock. The class action lawsuit claims Fifth Third knew the stock had become unacceptably risky, yet continued to invest. Between 2007 and 2009, more than 26,000 participants in Fifth Third's retirement plan watched the value of company stock drop nearly 75%, from roughly $40 to $10 a share. Employees say that cost them tens of thousands of dollars in retirement savings. Fifth Third CEO Kevin Cabot and other executives were named as defendants. This lawsuit is being watched by a number of organizations, including the AFL-CIO, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and the AARP. It could have enormous implications for hundreds of companies that offer similar retirement plans populated with company stock. It could determine when employees have a right to sue over stock losses. The Business Courier will follow the Supreme Court decision. For the full story behind the lawsuit, be sure to get a copy of the print edition of the Business Courier. Well, Tesla Motors has reached a compromise with the Ohio Auto Dealers Association over an Ohio bill that would have prevented it from expanding its electric car stores in the state. The auto dealers were pushing a bill that would have prevented Tesla from opening any new retail locations in Ohio by keeping it from selling cars directly to consumers. The existing Tesla stores in Cincinnati and Columbus would have been exempt from the new law. Ohio law states that auto manufacturers cannot compete directly with franchise dealerships.
We're not anti-Tesla. We're car people. We like cars.
And Howard argues independent dealers give consumers a chance to shop and find a deal. The compromise reached between Tesla and the auto dealers allows Tesla to open one more location in Cleveland, but prohibits manufacturers from selling directly to consumers. A local man who wants to put tires on our cars is now one of the country's top 10 independent tire dealers. Chip Wood, owner of Tire Discounters, spent 10 years growing up in Akron, the rubber capital of the world, and says tires are just in his blood. Tire Discounters is the 9th largest independent tire dealer in the nation, with more than 900 employees and 91 locations throughout the Midwest.
You know, we're anxious to open more stores in Columbus and in Nashville, of course. And the other thing that I'm really excited about is my son Stephen just joined the company. So he just graduated from UC, and I'm looking forward to working with him. I got to work with my father before he passed away, and I really appreciated that.
And Wood's father took a job at Totes Umbrella Company in 1965, and the family moved to Marymount. His father emphasized owning his own business was the way to go, and Wood obviously listened. Well, you can now order a ride in Cincinnati with the tap of an app. The new service is called Uber. Uber offers two services, an upscale black car service and the lower-cost UberX. It connects customers with freelance drivers who use their own cars to provide rides.
Uber's a technology company, so our app is really just a platform that connects people looking for rides with available drivers.
Some cab drivers in Cincinnati have voiced concerns about UberX cutting into their customer base. The owner of Rand's Taxi is circulating a petition to drive UberX out of Cincinnati. So far, the owner said he's collected 50 signatures on a petition. Cincinnati is getting a new hospital. TriHealth plans to open a fifth hospital later next year in a $17 million building. That will be part of Keystone Park, which is adjacent to I-71 in Evanston. An 18-year lease for the space has been signed with Nair Properties. About 180 people are expected to work at the facility, generating an annual payroll of at least $10 million. TriHealth expects to break ground this year. TriHealth Rehabilitation Hospital will provide inpatient care for people with acute medical issues such as spinal cord injuries and brain injuries. Burnett Woods in Clifton may be getting a makeover. Cincinnati Mayor John Cranley believes Burnett Woods can be overhauled to provide a public park similar to Washington Park and Over the Rhine for residents in and around Clifton and Courierville.
We talked about how Burnett Woods is such a beautiful green space that is underutilized, and that we should figure out a way to get more running and walking and bicycle trails inside the park.
Cranley compares the potential impact of the 90-acre Burnett Woods to Central Park in New York City. Burnett Woods has trails circling a large pond similar to Central Park, as well as hiking trails, fishing, an historic bandstand, playgrounds, shelters, picnic areas, a disc golf course, and of course the Wolf Planetarium. And over in Eden Park, the dilapidated pump station number 7 is on the verge of being transformed into a production brewery and tap room. The Ohio Controlling Board is scheduled to decide April 7th whether to grant the project $750,000 for asbestos abatement. Retired architect and former city employee Jack Martin is behind the push to turn the century-old pump station into a brewery.
It was a lot more expensive. We saw the building, everything looked sound, it looked like it was in great shape, but it has a bad leaky roof, it has a lot of asbestos in it, it has a lot of other infrastructure things in it that have gone wrong, and to the point that the building was going to cost us more than we could possibly justify as a brewery. So we spent the last couple of years trying to get state money, historic and federal tax credits. The city's been very helpful.
Go ahead and pull one back.
The historic building was designed by Samuel Hannaford, who also designed Music Hall and City Hall. It brought water from the Ohio River up to a water tower high on a hill in the park, where it was pressurized and pumped into nearby homes. Martin is now looking for additional investors and hopes to have the brewery open as early as the spring of 2015. Well, an iconic Cincinnati restaurant chain is celebrating 60 years of business in our community. And of course, we're talking about La Rosa's, which opened the doors of its first pizzeria here on Boudinot Avenue in Westwood in 1954. Since then, La Rosa's has grown into a regional restaurant business with 63 locations, 3,000 employees, and a revenue of nearly $140 million. And plans are in the works for more growth.
We have strategically identified 7 or 8 states within 300 or 400 miles of Cincinnati that we'd like to bring the great taste of La Rosa's to, new guests. And we have made a few contacts. We're actually in the process of signing some deals, which will take our concept to some new metropolitan areas. We're very excited about that.
As the company celebrates this milestone anniversary, the Business Courier sat down with 3 generations of the La Rosa family. And later in the program, Buddy La Rosa himself, along with son Mike, will join us in the studio. We're all very excited about that. Now, you'll, of course, find La Rosa's Pizza at Great American Ballpark, but when the Reds season opens tomorrow, you will also find a lot more food options. The Reds promoted all of their new menu items last week. A beer bratwurst is new to the lineup, as is the Geta Burger, featuring Glier's Geta on a pretzel bun. Hand-rolled sushi is available, and there's a new item called the Chipper that features pulled pork, cheese sauce, and jalapenos on Saratoga chips. And be sure to check out the Bacon Challenge in the machine room. That's 4 sandwiches, each loaded with 1 pound of bacon. Well, tomorrow is, of course, Reds opening day at Great American Ballpark, but the team has a couple of other big opening days later this year. Crews are putting the final touches on the P&G Major League Baseball Urban Youth Academy in Roselawn. The $7 million complex will host its first baseball games in April, and the full academy will open in July. Reds executive Phil Castellini seemed to enjoy showing off the Reds' latest project. With $2 million from P&G and $1.5 million from Major League Baseball, Roselawn Park is turning into baseball's 5th Urban Baseball Academy.
We'll touch far more kids in that way than we will produce pro athletes here. But again, ultimately, trust me, I can't wait till we have the first, the first guy drafted that we can hang that picture in that lobby that came through this program, but ultimately there's a heck of a lot more reasons we're doing it.
3 full-size baseball fields and a softball diamond flank the new 35,000 square foot main building. It's meant to mirror the Reds' Goodyear, Arizona spring training home. It will house batting cages, an indoor infield and classrooms, as well as an after-school program, tutoring and health classes. Well, up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, Greenpeace protesters strike P&G again. And CVG is #1 on at least one national list. We'll tell you why. Some news you may have missed if you're not reading the Business Courier online every day or following on Twitter and Facebook. A daring stunt at Procter & Gamble's headquarters in downtown Cincinnati has been repeated at some of the company's other buildings overseas. As they did here, Greenpeace activists dressed like tigers and displayed a giant banner from the top floor of P&G's Indonesian headquarters. The group is protesting the company's use of palm oil from a supplier tied to tropical forest destruction. Similar stunts were pulled in the Philippines, India, Belgium, and the United Kingdom. Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport is the best regional airport in North America for the 4th year in a row, according to Skytrax, a London-based air research organization. The company surveys nearly 13 million airline customers from 110 countries on 410 airports around the world. It judges each airport in 39 different airport services and product categories, including check-ins, arrivals, transfers, shopping, security, and immigration services. Well, join the Business Courier for Biz Women Mentoring Monday, a week from tomorrow on April 7th. The event runs from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. at Receptions in Erlanger and will give attendees the opportunity to have one-on-one coaching sessions. Lori Greiner, queen of QVC and Shark Tank, will be the keynote speaker. To register, visit the Business Courier website. Well, late March marks the end of basketball and beginning of baseball, and it's also the time when many companies are busy assessing just how well financial results came in for the first quarter. Many companies are now reporting the negative impact of snow and ice in January and February. So is that an indicator of first quarter earnings releases? To provide perspective, our very own Jim Russell, U.S. Bank's senior equity strategist, joins Business Watch producer Kelly Leon in the studio. Jim and Kelly.
Thanks, Peg. Jim, welcome back. We missed you last week.
Good morning.
So those first quarter earnings will be coming out in a couple weeks.
Right.
What are some of the major themes that are emerging? What are you seeing?
You know, a couple of things are going to be negatives. Number one, as Peg mentioned a minute ago, the weather in January and February was very difficult for many businesses. Atlanta was shut down, Washington, D.C., Cleveland, we had trouble here in the tri-state area, other areas as well. Also, a strong U.S. dollar has been a negative, and I would also add residual economic weakness in some European countries. You know, I think in terms of economics, we're going to get a rebound, we think, in March. So the weather negative goes away. The strong dollar is likely to persist as a negative most of this year. And then third, we would tell you that we do think the economics in Europe will actually improve. So we do think that things are bouncing back. Now, we do think that earnings for the first quarter of 2014 are essentially going to be flat, 0% growth against the first quarter of last year. But one of the things we're really listening for as the companies come out and tell us about their first quarter results is a rebound in March and probably better trends in the second quarter. Hiring plans, which means jobs, we're very hopeful, of course, for that, and of course business spending. So we're kind of listening for some of those themes.
Well, we hear a lot about the large companies. What are the trends that we're seeing in the smaller companies?
You know, actually, this is a very interesting point. You know, with all the news around the Ukraine and some of the other things around Europe, it does appear, and there's a little bit of theme in the investment community, that the United States is maybe the very best place in the world to invest. And so we do have some trends for both medium-sized companies and small companies. You can see the earnings growth estimated for 2014, 7.6, pretty solid for the S&P 500. That's, of course, the big company list. The mid-cap, of course, are medium-sized companies, 22.7% earnings growth. That's very very impressive for 2014. And the small companies, which are the most domestically focused, that do the most business in the United States, up 34.2%. So the more domestically focused, the more United States focused you are in terms of a company, it seems that the earnings growth is the most robust. So that's a pretty neat trend. So we're seeing a little bit faster earnings growth for the smaller companies.
Okay, and with the stock market being higher, are we seeing some new economic trends? Is it going to be outperform the stock market?
Yeah. You know, we get a question similar to that, Kelly, all the time, and isn't the stock market out over ski tips? Isn't it well ahead of the economic trends? We fully recognize that Main Street hasn't fully participated in the economic rebound, and what you see here is the S&P 500 in red, and you see the earnings growth of the S&P earnings in blue, but you can see that basically they match each other, meaning that the stock market has gone up in line with earnings growth. So we don't feel that the stock market is all that expensive, but we do acknowledge that many parts of Main Street have not fully participated. So what we do think is that the stock market responds especially well to a not too hot, not too cold, but kind of a just right economic environment. And we do think that that has been in place, likely to be in place for most of this year.
All right, so hopefully we're looking at a good year ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Jim, thanks so much. Thanks to U.S. Bank, and thanks to you for being here, as always.
Great to work with you.
Back to you, Peg.
Thanks, Kelly and Jim. Well, still to come on U.S. Bank Business Watch. Happy 60th birthday to La Rosa's. The legend himself, Buddy La Rosa, joins us in the studio next. In this morning's Business Insight, as we told you earlier, La Rosa's is celebrating 60 years in business in Cincinnati. The founder, Buddy La Rosa, is a celebrity here and known for his generosity to the community, as well as his pizza and his skill as a businessman. We are honored to have Buddy La Rosa with us this morning, along with his son, Mike. They joined Business Courier publisher Jamie Smith right here in the studio. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Peg. Thanks for being here, guys. And as she said, I am very honored to be interviewing the Buddy La Rosa. That means a lot to us, so thanks for being here.
You're welcome, Jim.
I guess my first question for you is, 60 years, 63 stores, and a quote that you had in our story was, every day is like opening day to you. How can that be with that many stores and that many years?
Well, if you want to make 61 years, you better treat everybody like the first day, like show business. Every day is opening day. So if you just perform once and you leave your performance home the next day, they won't come back the third day. So every day is a new day.
Yeah, attitude is so important in everything. And I think in terms of our family business, my father always approached it like, every day the front doors must be clean, the restrooms must be clean. We have to go out and go the extra mile for every guest. And if you go to work every day with that same attitude, sometimes you wake up and you've been in business 60 years. And I think that's a core belief of ours, that we just start fresh every day. Sure, mistakes happen. Sometimes someone drops the ball somewhere. But if your attitude is one that you learn from it and you just try to get better the next time, success can come your way.
Yeah. Well, I don't say it's easy to do, but it's easier to do when you own the place or you manage the place. 3,000 employees. How do you get 3,000 employees to believe in that they got to treat the customer like it's their first time?
Well, the most important element, I think, is they all get to eat free pizza once in a while. And most people love pizza, so I think the benefit of working at La Rosa is they can enjoy the food. But then we expect a lot. I think the company sets a high standard in terms of how we expect our team members to engage with our guests and the experience we want to provide our guests. So a combination of we treat them good, we expect a lot. At the end of the day, things work pretty well.
Great. Well, it's one thing to have the next generation come into the business. Obviously, you and Mike and Mark have been working together. Now you've got the third generation with your grandson, Nick. How's that feel to you, buddy?
Well, I'm very proud of that because in family businesses, 7 to 10% succeed at making that third generation. And in many ways, we've exceeded that. And I turned the business over to an unfamily member that Mike had to work for about 15, 20 years. His name was T.D. Hughes, and he was like my right-hand man. And when T.D. wanted to retire, I said, well, who's going to take your place? He says, well, Mike and Mark are ready, because he mentored them. I mentored them in the basic things. TD mentored them in the digital generation, which I don't even want to get into that. But I've been very fortunate to see the third legitimate generation. Now, Nick's been with us, what, 15 years?
15 years.
15 years.
Now, you'll be in a unique situation because you will have worked with your dad, and now you'll be working with your son. How do you feel about that?
Just very proud, to kind of look in both directions and see passionate people that care about the family business. That my dad started with basically nothing, and he was able to be successful, and I know my son will continue on that same path.
Excellent. Now, I know it sounds like some of his assignments or responsibility is going to be kind of that research and finding out exactly what consumers want, where your store should be. Tell me how you decided how Boudinot ever happened. Why Boudinot?
Because that's the only location I found would rent to me for $100 a month with a new product. What? Pizza? Nobody even wanted me to talk about it. This was a chili town. So Boudinot Avenue was just a cow path when I went over there, and it seemed like 6 months after that, they widened the street. Next thing you know, it's a 300, has a 300 score on the Nielsen ratings for locations. So I picked it out because it was the most reasonable location I could find at that time, 60 years ago.
Now that place burnt down?
No, we had, there was a strip center there.
Okay.
I started in one of the stores, and then over 25, 30 years, 40 years, I occupied all of those stores with various businesses. I had an Italian inn, I had a cantina, like a wine cellar hall, party hall, and then I had a deli, an Italian deli. So we had all of those facets there. Then I did have a fire in '73, and luckily, we got back in business in 29 days, which was supposed to be like 6 or 7 months, with the help of all the community. They supported us, the kids, the high schools, and whatever, because we were always a part of their life. So when we rebuilt, we kind of made a dedication to get involved with that secondary education that helped us on our second chance.
So that's a big reason why you're so involved in the community.
Yes. Oh, never repay him. I could never repay him.
Oh, that's great.
Never.
That's great. Well, leaving words, I could ask you 100 questions here, but what does it mean to you to be celebrating 60 years in business here in Cincinnati?
Well, I like to be a quiet pride guy. As you see, I don't have a lot of bling on me, a graduation ring, and a watch. But really, I'm proud, like I say, a quiet proudness of those facts that we hung in there for 60 years, because the restaurant business is a very volatile business. Go in a bank with a business plan and you want to borrow money, they'll show you the door. So, I'm very proud and to accomplish that. And I guess now I want to hang around to see us grow within a 350-mile area, and that's where we've always been geared to grow in that area.
Well, you know what? You should be proud. It's a great organization. I love going there. I'm there all the time, the Northern Kentucky location. It's just a great place to be. So thanks for being here today, but more importantly, thanks for being in this community, what you've done.
Okay, Jamie.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Back to you, Peg.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. What a great interview. I wish we had more time. Well, thank you for joining us this morning for U.S. Bank Business Watch. We'll be back next Sunday and every Sunday morning at 6:30 here on Local 12 and 10 a.m. on the CW. For more business news all week long, visit the Business Courier online and sign up for daily emails and follow on Twitter and Facebook. The address is CincinnatiBusinessCourier.com. I'm Peg Rasconi. Have a great Sunday.